How did our world come into being? Is it a mere coincidence, or was it intentionally designed? Is our reality unique, or one of an infinite number? And when will the world come to an end? Let's explore these profound questions from the perspectives of religion, ancient cultures, and science, seeking answers through their similarities and differences. Surprisingly, there may be more similarities than one might expect. In ancient Egyptian belief, the world was created by the supreme god, who then disintegrated into various gods, each reflecting a part of his essence. These gods represented the souls of entities and elements, with a specific term describing that process: heper, meaning to create or exist by disintegrating into components that together form a whole. Despite the appearance of polytheism due to the numerous gods, ancient Egyptian religion was actually a form of genotheism, where all gods were considered parts of the supreme god from whom they originated. This supreme god created all entities and things by first conceiving them in his heart and then speaking their true names. This creative process was allegorically linked to the cackling of a goose, which is why the goose was one of the symbols associated with the Supreme Lord, depicted in some images as his certain aspect. Thus, the world appeared due to God's intention, not by a coincidence. At the beginning of time, according to their beliefs, there was only light and the primordial ocean, none. Time had not yet come into existence. This is not the ocean of water as a source of physical life, but a repository of unmanifested everything. None represented the ocean of chaos and, hey, the endless of forms and entities, meaning everything already existed within that ocean, though it had not yet been revealed. For the world to come into being, all those entities and forms had to be manifested. According to the Book of the Dead, more accurately translated as the Book of the Statements of the Journey to the Light of Life, quite the opposite. Paradise was a place without chaos, without time. This concept of chaos bears a resemblance to entropy in science, which is commonly associated with a state of disorder, randomness, or uncertainty. In science, entropy is central to the second law of thermodynamics, which results in isolated systems evolving toward thermodynamic equilibrium, where entropy is at its highest, leading to the heat death of the ever-expanding universe. Thus, the realm of ancient Egyptian paradise existed beyond the reach of entropic matter. According to the Book of the Dead, the end of the world will occur when Osiris and Ra, the soul and body of the supreme god, representing eternity and infinity, come to a halt, and everything returns to none, the ocean of primordial forms. The world will then be revealed again, indicating a cyclical existence where it appears from predefined forms and disappears in an endless cycles, making it not a unique coincidence of probabilities, but a repeated design created by God. In the Bible, the process of world creation is described in Genesis, the very first book and chapter. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. This passage does not refer to the sky and land, which are formed later on the third day, but rather to the separation between the material and non-material realms, as the term heavens is used in the Bible to refer to the paradise eternal realm. The wind of God, or in some translations, Spirit of God, hovered over the waters. Could this be akin to the ocean of forms and entities seen in the ancient Egyptian concept? A very similar ocean is also mentioned in the Vedas as the source of world manifestation, which we will explore later. In this context, the Bible also presents the first mention of the Holy Spirit, which thus existed before the revelation of matter. The creation of light followed. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. Again, this reflects a strong connection to ancient Egyptian belief, where light existed before the revelation of forms and entities. Similarly, science also holds that light was the first to occur. It bridges ancient wisdom with contemporary knowledge. The idea that light is a precursor to the formation of physical entities is a profound observation, both in religious and scientific contexts. Also, we see that manifestation occurs through speech. God brings things into existence by naming them. Various entities are created this way: light, firmament, dry land, vegetation, as well as living creatures. It is the same principle as the ancient Egyptian concept describes. Actually, this mirrors many religious concepts where divine speech initiates creation. For example, the famous magical phrase abracadabra is said to derive from the Hebrew phrase abracadabri, meaning "I create as I speak," suggesting that speech can magically bring forth new realities. If this is indeed its origin, it aligns with the Kabbalistic belief that the words and letters of the Hebrew alphabet hold creative power. The Old Church Slavonic alphabet operates on a similar principle, where each letter carries a specific semantic meaning, and words are formed by combining these meanings. This concept is echoed in the Talmud's description of Bezalel, the master builder of the sanctuary, which states that Bezalel knew how to combine the letters through which heaven and earth were created. Bezalel's creative prowess stemmed from his understanding of how God used words and letters to create the world. Getting back to the Bible, God created the first level of time by creating the first day. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning the first day. This passage marks the first mention of time, which can be interpreted as the inception of time as a concept. This idea resonates with all other traditions, Vedic, ancient Egyptian, and scientific, which suggests that time did not exist at the zero point before creation. The Vedas further elaborate on this by describing different states of time at Brahma's level and the planetary level, while also emphasizing that the realm of the supreme God exists beyond time. For a detailed analysis of time and how it relates to different material levels, you can watch my video devoted to time specifically, linked in the description. On the second day, God established the levels of the material world. And God said, "Let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." So God made the dome, and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome. And it was so. God called the dome sky. And there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. Here, we see that matter was divided into 3 levels. In the Vedas, there are also exactly 3 levels of planets, indicating a correlation and similarity in the world structures described in these sacred texts. This division might reference multiple levels of existence, akin to the 7 skies idea, common for many religions as well. While science does not typically address levels of the universe in this way, it does entertain hypotheses, such as the multiverse, which posits multiple universes that could be considered as existing on different levels. On the third day, land and oceans were created. And God said, "Let the waters under the sky be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. We can read this as the creation of elements of nature, such as water, ground, and sky. Then, forms of life, starting with plants, were brought into existence. Then God said, "Let the earth put forth vegetation." The earth brought forth vegetation, and God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. The distinct sequence of forms of life began with plants, followed by sea creatures and birds on the 5th day, then land animals, and culminated with the creation of humankind on the sixth day. That sequence echoes a progression in the evolutionary development of species. There is also a parallel to the Vedic life creation, where stages of consciousness are also involved, which will be explored further later on. However, the biblical and Vedic narrative emphasizes the dominion of humankind over other forms of life, a theme deeply embedded in religious concepts. Notably, all acts of creation in Genesis chapter 1 follow a consistent pattern. God commanded, creation occurred, and God saw that it was good. This suggests a deliberate and orderly process of creation existed. On the fourth day, another level of time was created with the sun and moon repeating cycles. And God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, and for days and years." And God saw that it was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. The fourth day introduces the concept of time dilation, with the creation of days and nights occurring within a single day of a higher level. This concept has parallels with the time dilation described in the Vedas. I discuss this effect in more detail in my video about time, which you can find linked in the description. On the fifth day, sea creatures and birds were created. On the sixth, ground creatures first, and then mankind. Then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. What's particularly interesting about the creation of humankind is that it's not explicitly stated that mankind was created by both God and the Holy Spirit together. The text simply uses the word us. This can be connected to the Vedas, where Brahma, analogous to the Holy Spirit, is regarded as the creator of human beings. We also read here that God created male and female, but it doesn't state that Adam and Eve were the ones created at that moment. We learn about them later in Genesis chapter 2, after all the world creations, when Jehovah God appears in the text creating Adam and Eve. God blessed them. God said, "See, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food." Specifically, God initially mentions only plants as food for people. The Bible specifically states that the consumption of meat was permitted only after the flood, often interpreted as a response to humanity's degraded nature. God saw everything that he had made, and indeed, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. After each creation, God repeatedly stated that his creation was good, and on the sixth day, very good. Given the compressed form of Genesis chapter 1, and that every word in this crucial account of creation is significant, the use of good might not simply reflect God's satisfaction. Rather, it can emphasize that God alone has the authority to judge the worth and quality of everything in the world he created. It seems that some details may be missing between Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2, or that they represent two distinct creation narratives woven into a single text. There is no guarantee that these accounts describe the creation of the same world, one as the material universe, and the other as the specific environment for Adam and Eve. While it is commonly assumed that Adam and Eve were created during the initial creation of the world, the Bible does not explicitly state this. This opens the possibility for a different interpretation, that Adam and Eve could have been part of a later generation of humankind, possibly the first of a new type, rather than the very first humans overall. Notably, the Bible does not explicitly mention the end of the world. The book of Revelation speaks of Judgment Day, which is not the end of the world's existence. Thus, the Bible does not present a cyclical view of the world's manifestation and dissolution. While certainly states the world was created intentionally and by specific design, but not as a random variation of possibilities. Description of the creation of the world can be found in the Srimad Bhagavatam book, The Status Quo. In this text, many types or stages of creation are described. Compared to the 6 days of creation in the Bible, the Srimad Bhagavatam describes 9 stages. This account is more detailed and complex, suggesting that the biblical narrative might be a more condensed version of a broader, fuller knowledge. Despite the differences in detail, both texts convey similar or even identical ideas about the process of creation. Before delving into stages of creation, it's important to understand Brahma and the origins of creation. Brahma is a personalized living entity created by the Supreme God, known as the grandfather of planetary inhabitants, created the bodies of living entities from his own body and mind after the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this context, Brahma's role as the creator of living entities parallels the biblical account where God says, presumably to the Holy Spirit, "Let us create humankind." In the Status Quo, chapter 10, we read, Brahma thus engaged himself in penances for 100 celestial years, as advised by the personality of Godhead, and applied himself in devotional service to the Lord. Thereafter, Brahma saw that both the lotus on which he was situated and the water on which the lotus was growing were trembling due to a strong, violent wind. Here, water, a recurring theme in various creation concepts, ancient Egyptian, biblical, Vedic, once again appears as the primal source of material entities. This is not the ocean of water as a source of physical life, but a repository of unmanifested everything. Wind is also a common element, though in the Bible it is equated with the Holy Spirit. While in Vedic texts, the Holy Spirit and wind are distinct concepts. The lotus and wind raise questions. What might they symbolize, given that elements and forms of life were created later according to the Vedas? Could this lotus be analogous to what we now call singularity, a point that is infinitely small and infinitely dense from which the universe appeared? Additionally, the following expansion of the lotus echoes the idea of the universe extension. Long penance and transcendental knowledge of self-realization had matured Brahma in practical knowledge, and thus he drank the wind completely, along with the water. Thereafter, he saw that the lotus on which he was situated was spread throughout the universe, and he contemplated how to create all the planets, which were previously merged in that very same lotus. This imagery draws a strong parallel between the epochs of the universe following the Big Bang and the process of world creation as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Brahma entered into the whorl of the lotus, and as it spread all over the universe, he divided it into 3 divisions of worlds and later into 14 divisions. In contrast, the Bible mentions only 3 levels of the material world, while Vedic texts expand on these levels with further complexity. This cosmic manifestation is separated from the Supreme Lord as material energy by means of Kala, which is the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Lord. Kala represents the boundary between God's realm, Sanatana, and the material world. This concept of a divide between the eternal non-material divine realm and the endless or repeating material world is common across many religions. This cosmic manifestation is, as it is now, it was the same in the past, and will continue in the same way in the future. This refers to the infinite cycles of creation and dissolution of the world we can read about in the Vedas. Similarly to repeated revelation and dissolution of the world in ancient Egyptian concept. In the Bhagavad Gita, the 3 modes of material nature, or 3 gunas, are discussed: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Eternal time is the primeval source of the interactions of the three modes of material nature. It is unchangeable and limitless, and it works as the instrument of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pastimes in material creation. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, these modes are mentioned within the context of the 9 creations of the world. The stages of creation are as follows. Of the 9 creations, the first one is the creation of the Mahat Tattva, or the sum total of the material ingredients, wherein the modes interact due to the presence of the Supreme Lord. This is the creation of the cosmic intelligence, the total material energy that forms the basis for all subsequent creation. It refers to the revelation of matter from the unmanifested, which correlates with the first day of creation in the Bible, or the Big Bang out of singularity, according to the scientific cosmology model. In the second, the false ego is generated, in which the material ingredients, material knowledge, and material activities arise. This stage involves the emergence of the false ego, which fosters individuality and separation from the divine. It forms the basis for a sense of identity and material aspects of existence. The sense perceptions are created in the third creation, and from these, the elements are generated. At this point, the senses and the 5 gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, are created. Some of these elements are also mentioned in the Bible during the second and third days, with the creation of the sky, land, and seas. In scientific terms, this stage can be likened to the formation of different atomic nuclei, starting with hydrogen. The fourth creation is the creation of knowledge and of working capacity. It refers to the establishment of the fundamental principles and laws that govern the universe, involving the creation of wisdom, understanding, and the faculties needed for beings to perceive and interact with the world. It also encompasses the creation of the energy and abilities necessary for beings to fulfill their roles within the cosmos, enabling its functioning. The fifth creation is that of the controlling deities by the interaction of the mode of goodness, of which the mind is the sum total. Here, the mind is part of creation and is organized as a sum of controlling deities. Neither the Bible nor science addresses the mind as a created entity, making this a unique understanding found in the Vedas. The sixth creation is the ignorant darkness of the living entity, by which the master acts as a fool. This reflects the Vedic concept of ignorance, which limits consciousness to mere reactions to the material world. This ignorance is part of a larger divine plan, designed with purpose. It can be somewhat connected to the concept of evil in the Bible, which is personalized there, highlighting a main difference between these two sacred texts. Science does not operate with such concepts, although psychology approximates similar ideas with the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious, where the false ego would be rather conscious. All the above are natural creations by the external energy of the Lord. Now, hear from me about the creations by Brahma, who is an incarnation of the mode of passion, and who, in the matter of creation, has a brain like that of the personality of Godhead. These refer to the creation of immovable entities like plants, as well as the creation of lower species, and eventually humankind. The seventh creation is that of the immovable entities, which are of 6 kinds. All the immovable trees and plants seek their sustenance upwards. They are almost unconscious, but have feelings of pain within. They are manifested in variegatedness. It is interesting that plants are described as almost unconscious, suggesting some consciousness, albeit in an embryonic state. Nonetheless, pain is present. The 8th creation is that of the lower species of life, and they are of different varieties, numbering 28. They are all extensively foolish and ignorant. They know their desirables by smell, but are unable to remember anything within the heart. In contrast to plants, animals have limited spiritual awareness. What grabs the attention is the mention of the heart as a repository of memory. This understanding parallels that of the ancient Egyptians, who believed the heart was the storage for life's memories. The heart, not the brain, was weighed on the scales of truth during the after-death judgment to determine if it was heavy with wrongdoing. Similarly, God revealed material by first having the idea in his heart. This special role of the heart in both traditions brings them closer together. The creation of human beings, who are of one species only and who stock their eatables in the belly, is the ninth in the rotation. In the human race, the mode of passion is very prominent. Humans are always busy in the midst of miserable life, but they think themselves happy in all respects. It is challenging to add more commentary here. Humans, the most evolved beings, possess the capacity for higher consciousness, free will, and spiritual growth. This resonates with the Bible, where only humankind is endowed with free will. Even for angels, after their fall, the nature of their free will is often seen as fixed. Good angels are permanently aligned with God, and fallen angels, demons, are irrevocably opposed to God. Unlike in the Bible, where the Holy Spirit is involved solely in the creation of humankind, Brahma is described as the creator of all living entities. A parallel can be drawn between the stages of creation, plants, animals, and humans, in the Bible, the Vedas, and science. Even though science does not acknowledge purposeful creation, it aligns with the progression of DNA development. Yet, only the Vedas provide knowledge on consciousness development. Neither religion nor science offers certain answers about the consciousness of other species, although some assumptions exist. These 9 stages outline the progressive development of the universe, from the initial creation of matter to the emergence of life and consciousness. Additionally, the Vedas mention the creation of demigods. The creation of the demigods is of 8 varieties: the demigods, the forefathers, the asuras, or demons, the Gandharvas and Apsaras, or angels, the Yaksas and Rakshasas, the Siddhas, Karanas, and Vidyadharas, the Bhutas, Pretas, and Pisikas, and the superhuman beings, celestial singers, etc. All are created by Brahma, the creator of the universe. While the Bible provides some details about the existence and roles of angels and demons, it does not offer a comprehensive account of their creation. Although Genesis chapter 2 verse 1 states, "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all their multitude," or, in some translations, all their hosts. Remembering that heavens and earth here appeals to celestial and profane worlds, this is nothing less than an indication of existence of living creatures in both these worlds. This implies the existence of not only physical realms, but also various levels of beings within the material world. In comparing the Vedic and biblical texts, it becomes increasingly evident that the Bible might have a compressed version of the world creation, with some elements and details omitted. Science doesn't give a 100% certain answer about the creation of the universe, although it already knows a lot. Still, there are only cosmological models, which are interpretations based on quantum mechanics, general relativity, and observational data. However, these models have unresolved problems and limitations, so they could soon be replaced by new, yet unknown models. There is no comprehensive theory of creation, nor a theory of everything, which remains a distant dream for scientists. What we have are interpretations or hypotheses. The current model, lambda CDM, is an extension of the Big Bang model, which itself is also an interpretation, not a theory, not to disappoint fans of the TV sitcom. This is one of the most common misconceptions. In science, a theory is something proven, repeatedly tested, and confirmed through experimentation, while anything less than that is just a hypothesis, even if it cannot be refuted. In everyday language, however, the term theory can be often used for something more akin to an assumption. Correctly speaking, the Big Bang isn't a theory, just as Darwin's idea is not yet a theory. Returning to the cosmological models, if to look at their history. From the concept of a flat Earth supported by elephants and a turtle to our current model, despite the lingering ideas of a flat Earth, it can be seen that each time new discoveries, data, or observations arise that don't fit the existing model, it have to be updated, extended, or replaced with a new one. Or an alternative cosmological model appears. Several models can exist simultaneously, as is the case now, not yet proven or disproven, which means they all have probability of being correct. Concepts like the bubble universe, multiple flat universes connected by wormholes, endless universes as a superposition of all possible quantum states, the cyclic universe, or a universe without dark matter are all examples of this. Frankly speaking, there might be a new vision of the universe by the end of this video. However, it takes time to establish something as a proven theory. The lambda CDM model emerged because of the need to include dark matter in the equations to make them work on larger scales of the universe. Dark matter is something that cannot be detected or interacted with, yet had to be included. In fact, all the observed ordinary matter universe, stars, galaxies, light, makes up just 5% of the matter energy content. Then, 27% of the universe is dark matter, and 68% is dark energy. Think about that. Around 95% of the universe is something we don't understand. That's why it is called dark matter and dark energy. It is unknown what they are. They can't be detected, observed, or interacted with, because dark matter doesn't interact with light. Science only assumes they should exist to make the equations work. It's a hypothetical matter and energy, and are just supposed that they should be there. That's all. According to the current lambda CDM model, much of the universe's formation happened within the first second on the logarithmic timeline of the universe's life. The Big Bang out of singularity, followed by inflation, an exponential expansion of the universe, heating, cooling, and then reheating again. The formation of the four fundamental forces we know today: gravitation, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, along with the formation of hydrogen nuclei. However, this model has its timeline limitations, particularly due to Planck's constant in the equations, Planck time limitation, which means they are not applicable to what was happening from the zero time point to 10 to negative 43 power seconds. This may seem like an incredibly brief moment, insignificant even, but it's crucial because it represents the very beginning and how all this started. Scientists casually refer to it as a singularity, an infinitely small and infinitely dense point. To rephrase it in simpler terms, everything was concentrated into a single point of nothingness from which the universe appeared. Could this singularity point be compared to the lotus flower in Vedic concepts? And could the subsequent expansion be likened to a lotus spreading throughout the universe? Or the wind hovering over the face of the waters? What could be that ocean from which everything was manifested, from which matter was revealed? Could it be dark matter? Or could these dark 95% of our universe be an area of other material realms mentioned in Bible and Vedas? Just look at the hydrogen wave function. Incidentally, it resembles a flower, possibly a lotus. Could the wave function in general have been present at the very beginning of the world, before matter was revealed from singularity, as a reflection of mathematical laws that existed before its material manifestation? As all scientific laws, whether mathematical, physical, or chemical, they are not invented, but only discovered. We know that Einstein, Bohr, Schrödinger, Oppenheimer, Bohm, and other physicists explored the Vedas. Did they draw inspiration from it? An interesting paradox that remains unresolved is how matter came to prevail over antimatter. During the formation of nuclei, the first particles and antiparticles appeared, along with the first annihilation processes, where a particle and its corresponding antiparticle, like an electron and positron, meet, release energy, and both cease to exist. However, we see that matter prevails over antimatter, and this could only happen under the condition of baryon asymmetry, where for every 1 billion antiparticles, there was 1 billion plus 1 particle. Why did this asymmetry occur? There is no answer for it, because the probability on an infinite scale should give a 50-50 distribution. There is still the annihilation process happening continuously. Every second, 10 billion tons of electron-positron pairs annihilate in the center of the galaxy. So where is the rest of the antimatter? Paul Dirac suggested that there is a parallel world of antimatter, a mirror to our own. He is also the one who postulated antimatter with his fundamental equation. According to recent experiments, negative impulse, as from Dirac's double world, is what is needed to open the wormhole, connecting entangled particles. There are other unsolved problems that the current model cannot explain, such as the violation of the cosmological principle, violations of isotropy and homogeneity, the KBC void, Hubble tension, S8 tension, the axis of evil, the shape of the universe, violations of the strong equivalence principle, cold-dark matter discrepancies, and others. Starting from the 1920s until recently, changes in cosmology have increasingly included the oscillating model as an everlasting alternative to the expanding universe, which is expected to end in heat death when there is no longer enough energy for thermodynamic processes, resulting in a kind of stable thermodynamic system with the highest entropy. The oscillating model suggests cycles of expansion and collapse, followed by further expansion and collapse of the universe. Besides correlations of entropy with ancient Egyptian chaos, this idea also aligns with the Vedic concept of the world manifesting and unmanifesting in repeated, infinite cycles. Ultimately, many sources seem to approximate similar ideas. An ocean of unrevealed matter, a singularity from which everything emerged, light as the first element, development of life on the earth, multiple levels of existence, a cyclical universe. As science advances, the language used to describe these concepts seems to be converging. What is the probability that these ideas originate from a single source? My answer is the probability of God. I hope you enjoyed this video and discovered some new and captivating ideas today. I am deeply grateful to everyone who supports me. If you haven't yet and would like to, please support me on Patreon using the link below or by using the Super Thanks button on YouTube. Thank you for every like and subscription. See you in my next video.